Alien vs. Predator: The Last of His Clan, released in 1994 for the Game Boy courtesy of Activision and released around the same time as the somewhat mediocre SNES game we looked at previously. And this is not a side-scrolling beat-em-up, nor is it a first-person shooter, but rather it is a side-scrolling action platform game where once again you guide a lone predator, the last surviving member of a recently eradicated hunting clan, to find the alien hive and slay the queen to restore the honor of your fallen clan. So this is a side-scrolling action game where you beat up a bunch of aliens, move to the right, beat up a bunch of aliens, move to the get the fuck out of here, we're not doing that bit again. Actually, this one's a little more involved. You've got 7 levels to venture through, and each level is a somewhat open-ended labyrinth, where your main goal is to find the key that will unlock the door that holds the exit to the current level. In order to accomplish this task, you'll need to find other weapons and tools. Spinning disc, which is a sort of boomerang-type weapon that returns to you. Unless it hits a wall, then you have to pick it up again. Ammo for your laser cannon, which is basically a homing shot and your most effective weapon, and finally bombs, which can be used to clear away barricades blocking your path. None of these items carry over to the next level, so each new level starts you with a clean slate, which, to be frank, is a kind of bullshit way of implementing any semblance of challenge, on top of the aliens taking more hits to die as you progress further into the game. You start a new game with 3 lives, and each stage with 8 hit points and 50 energy points, with the energy points slowly ticking away as time passes. Energy not only powers your optional cloaking device, which is more of an invulnerability shield than a genuine cloak, but it also powers the map on top. As you progress through the level, the map reveals more of itself, giving you more of a clue as to your surroundings. Once energy runs out, however, the map blanks out and you're only left with a spotlight highlighting your immediate surroundings. Fortunately, the Predator can find an energy tank to restore his energy to maximum, but that's about the only resource you can replenish as there are no health pickups to be found, which makes things a tad more challenging in this regard. Your Predator is not the most nimble player around. He moves somewhat slowly, his jumps don't have much height or reach, and he can only attack when grounded or crouching, meaning you're vulnerable to attack when airborne or climbing ladders, which is always fun, especially with respawning xenomorphs right on top of you. Fortunately, while your jumps aren't high, they are maneuverable. You can move around in midair, which is nice. And with the help of a bomb and some good timing, you could gain a little extra height to those jumps in order to reach those out-of-reach places. There's a couple points where you will need this skill, so learn it quickly. The Predator can also do the duck walk to crawl under somewhat narrow passages. Not sure if that's cool or not, but at least it's useful. Control is fairly tight and responsive, no complaints or lag in that regard. It works well enough for what little you do here. The gameplay is at least interesting in that it teases the sort of open-ended exploration that would become a genre of sorts down the road. Attacks usually land their blows, which is good because defeated xenomorphs respawn almost immediately after you turn around to so much as sneeze, and these fuckers come at you hard and fast, almost by surprise at times, and as you progress farther into the game, they take more hits to take down. Meanwhile, you're starting each new level back to basics, with all your acquired weapons being tallied up for a score, and your efforts ranked for some reason. There doesn't seem to be any added benefit to a higher ranking. You don't get any stat boosts or inventory bonuses. You certainly don't get any extra lives for reaching certain point values. The most you're getting between levels is rejuvenation of your energy and hit points, and that happens regardless of rank. So really this whole process is somewhat useless, especially since this is the only time there is any mention of a scoring or ranking system. Either give the player an incentive for achieving a higher rank or don't bother with it. This could easily have been cutscenes to further the game's story, which, outside the pre-title opening and the ending, plays no part in the larger game. And that's the biggest takeaway I get from The Last of His Clan. It's a tease for a deeper game, a more interesting game. And had this been made several years later with the whole open-ended search action style starting to become more prevalent, I'm pretty sure more would have been done to expand on the concept and develop the gameplay a little more. Something that would reward the curious, exploratory player with new skills and such instead of just restocking on stuff you lost because you dared enter a new level. And that's what makes this a tease. It's 6 levels of doing the same thing but with different layouts and progressively more resistant aliens. I say 6 because the final level is fairly straightforward. Avoid the acid drips, take out the facehuggers, blow up the barricade, and face off against the queen with your fists of fury instead of something that packs more of a punch that I had a bunch of a while ago but left behind in the last level for some reason. Respawning enemies don't help matters either, especially if they're respawning right on top of you and you end up taking a hit and knocked off a ladder if you're climbing one. Even the limited motion scanner that keeps track of immediate alien motion only works to a certain degree, and that's assuming you have enough energy left. Sometimes you'll need to take leaps of faith, which means landing on a straight chest burster that just happens to be there and... Wait, I could walk through this wall? Really? I need to walk through walls at times? Does that... Ah yes, invisible pits. Straight out of the Simon's Quest playbook. Yes, that's always a popular thing with the kids these days. Look, despite some issues that could have used a little more work and the concept sometimes feeling a bit undercooked, The Last of Us Clan isn't that bad of a game. It does what it does fairly well, but it's the sort of thing that you just wish more was done with the concept than what's there. It's a tease for greatness more than anything. And of course, once your 3 lives are exhausted, it's game over, man. Game over. No continues, no passwords, no saves of any kind. Well, okay, there's a stage skip if you want to go there, but that's about it, really. Alien vs. Predator looks good on the Game Boy. The Predator looks like a Predator, the various aliens, xenomorphs, facehuggers, chestbursters look like what they're supposed to. The intermissions aren't too bad looking. The level backgrounds and layout might be a bit on the bland side, but at the very least they look fairly detailed. Performance is generally consistent, not much in the ways of flicker outside of whenever you take a hit, which is normal. All in all, a perfectly fine looking Game Boy title is this, The Last of Us Clan. The audio department also gets a thumbs up. A rather limited number of musical tracks are featured, but these are some quality tracks that, unlike the SNES version, are appropriately moody, morose sounding tracks. Sure, they can get somewhat repetitive and droning at times, but at the very least, they fit the world being depicted. Sound effects are serviceable, not much else to say there. Overall, Alien vs. Predator: The Last of Us Clan is perfectly adequate portable fodder, and honestly, I preferred this Game Boy entry over the Super Nintendo game. The gameplay is a little more engaging. Exploring the levels and using the Predator's various tools and abilities was a fun time. The overall presentation was pretty solid. There are some aspects to the game that could have been a lot better, or at least more fleshed out, but otherwise, this ain't half bad. I enjoyed this one more so than I was expecting, and that's all I needed it to be. This is one worth checking out, though keep your expectations firmly in check, and you'll be fine.